Welcome to the PIDE webinar. My name is Nadim Ul Haq. We're going to begin our webinar today. PIDE conducts regular webinars 2-3 times a week to start a dialogue in an academic atmosphere in Pakistan. We have talked on a number of subjects and will continue to do so. Today, we are very happy, very pleased to invite Professor Jehad Yasin, who is a professor in the US, and he's going to talk about the Professor in Georgia. He's going to talk about the demographic structure in private savings, some evidence from emerging markets. Professor Yasin is not only a well-known economist, but he also is of Palestinian origin, but has studied in Pakistan. So he has some association with Pakistan, and we welcome him back to Pakistan. Professor Yasin, I hope you will come and see us one day in Pakistan. I hope once this COVID is over, travel is on, we'll invite you to come and see us directly and talk to us in person. But meanwhile, we'll listen to you. The floor is yours, Professor Yasin.
Thank you, Dr. and Professor Nadim Ul Haq. Good evening and assalamu alaikum to my colleagues in Pakistan. This is Jehad Yasin. As Dr. Nadim said, I am originally from Palestine, living and residing in the United States for almost 43 years. And I am happy to say that I got my education, my undergraduate education in Pakistan. So I owe Pakistan, my early education, I would say the bachelor level from Karachi University in economics. So I thank Dr. Nadim, and also I thank Dr. and my colleague, Dr. Ghulam Nabi, and for his assistance in the last 2 weeks to connect with the PIDE. And also I want to thank my former university, Karachi University, for giving me the opportunity to learn basic economics, to give me the tools I need to learn in life. And for that learning in Pakistan, I was able to go back home with my family in Kuwait to work there for X number of years. Then I decided to come to America to do my graduate studies in economics, master level and a PhD. So I am a professor of a university. I am also conducting research like everybody else. And I follow Pakistan closely. I read a lot about what's going on in the area, like I follow the Middle East. And sometimes I log into the website of the PIDE. And whenever the lecture is in English, I will understand it, of course. But sometimes, it's a mix Urdu and English. And I'll get lost, but then I go back again. I figure out what is the topic and so on. So I want to thank the PIDE for the lecture series they have. So congratulations to you. So I'm here today to talk to you about my paper. I have a research paper, an article. As Dr. Nadim said, the title of it is Demographic Structure and Private Saving, Some Evidence from Emerging Markets. The paper does not, just to start with, the paper does not aim to develop a saving model. That's not the focus. We know a saving model can be developed. We have tons of variables impact savings. However, this paper or this article focuses basically on the life cycle hypotheses. Life cycle hypotheses, these are hypotheses developed by Franco Modigliani in the early 50s, 1957 to be precise. And the main hypothesis of this theory says that saving, private saving, we're referring to private saving, my saving, your saving, the saving get higher and higher in percentage as we, the people, are working. So the higher the working population age group, the higher the saving. That's one of the main argument of the life cycle hypothesis. But also it says that when we are young, when we are less than 20, we are in school basically. We don't have money to save. Instead, we consume rather than saving, rather than save. So the argument at a young age, the saving and the age group below 20 will be negative relationship. Similarly with the older group, people who retired. Those who retired, we expect, that the age group for the retired people also, it will decline. So I'll try to organize my paper to talk about a little bit about the abstract, the introduction, the data, the empirical, and then little conclusion at the end. And I'll conclude by questioning and answers. So this is the aim, like I said, of the paper, which is clearly in the abstract, which you can see it. We just focus on the linkages between these demographic factors and how it affects the ratio of saving in a group of countries, although we know we have other variables that may affect saving and saving models. When I did all these findings for the MENA regions, the MENA region is the Middle East and North Africa, and we found the result consistent with the life cycle hypothesis, especially consistent with the middle age group, and also consistent with the very young. However, for the older group, the result is mixed, or I can say a weak relationship considered. The life cycle hypothesis is developed very, very early in 1957 by Franco Modigliani, and it centers around the linkages between the demographic factors and the saving. Our variables we may think of may affect saving, many of them taxation, social security, or retirement benefit, maybe fertility also does affect that, life expectancy does affect saving, and so on. And all this does impact saving. When we talk about even Middle East and other countries in North Africa and Middle East, even all revenue does also impact saving because it generates huge wealth. However, I did not look at them. I know they are there, I know they exist, I know they have an impact, but instead I just focus on the age group of the young and the middle age and the older group and how it affects the saving. And so I realized that maybe in the future I can expand this paper and look at the saving model, taking into consideration the life cycle arguments, the hypothesis, and a list of group variables can be included, can be added. But for this paper, it's mainly focused on the age group of the individuals. Now, the Middle East, Middle East and North Africa has been in turmoil, political instability, which also does affect saving, consumption, and spending. But it has been always in turmoil, politically unstable. And politically unstable meaning there are political factors also that affect saving in these countries. And I would say after September 11, the area has totally changed in 2001. And the paper is just focused on a time period. It's not stable, but considerably is much worse in terms of stability compared to the last 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. So it looked at between 1960 and 2001, and it takes the MENA regions. I always thought, even when I was in Pakistan, and always I thought that Pakistan is considered part of the Middle East, and but the MENA region, they don't include it into the Middle East. Sometimes they do in some of the literature. So this paper, unfortunately, did not include Pakistan in the analysis. instead it takes only 14 countries out of the group. Of course, the MENA region is more than these 14 countries, but the data is the reason why I selected these countries, 14 of them, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and North Africa like Libya, Algeria, and so on, which has many of them oil-producing countries. And I just looked at that type of 3 variables of my interest. The very young group, 15 years and younger. I could do it 20, but I choose the 15 because maybe at the age of 20, someone may start working, but I took the 15 of age and younger. Then I took the working group, age group 15 to 64, 65. In the Middle East, we start working early. It's not like America. America here, you have to get permit if you want to work at the age of 15 or 16, permit from the parents, permit from the high school. Whereas in our countries in the Middle East, where I grew up, in Kuwait, mostly, and partially in Jordan, we work at earlier age. So I took this young group, then I took the age from 15 to 64, and then I took the larger group. And I examined the relationship, how these affect the saving rate in these countries. And so it's basically simple regression analysis, that I developed for each country, and to examine this type of relationship. I call them emerging markets because really in the late 90s, early 2000s, late 90s, 80s, 90s, the huge oil income has increased in these regions. It created, I would say, middle class group that have income, they have assets, they have increased their consumption, they have increased their saving over time. And so that's basically what motivates me to look at these countries. And the countries which I took into consideration, countries like in North Africa, I took Algeria, for example, and I took Libya, and even Morocco, and in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, I took even Jordan, Oman, Syria, which basically now economically destroyed. There's no even data on Syria to do any research or analysis, United Arab Emirates. So the data availability was the main reason or the constraint, which country to include, which country not to include. And the data constraint also is a reason why the data number of years is selected. My desire, and I hope I will look at beyond September 11 till now and compare, is there a structural change in the saving patterns between prior to 2001 and after 2001? And maybe also include countries like Pakistan, either do it individually or with the group. That's my focus, hopefully my next stage. So for every country, all this data is collected, and I got them from World Economic Indicators, and which are published by the United Nations annually for all these countries. And so the data is available as it is published by the United Nations for this, the young, and for the, I would call them children, and the working group, and the older group, which we will designate them as retired or retiree. And the working group are the one who's really earning money, and so on. The empirical results is basically examining the relationship, and I have listed the models which I will show it to you, but I'm going to come back to this empirical result right now. So if I scroll down, you could see table 1 shows the regression estimates country by country, for example, Algeria, Bahrain, Egypt, then Iran, Israel, even Israel, I included into the analysis. Jordan and Kuwait also, and then Libya, Morocco, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Tunisia, United Arab Emirates, all of them are results. For every country, two models has been developed, two models, either in log form or first difference. Then after I did all these, I came up with results, which I'll explain it to the group in a minute. I said, let me do some kind of trend analysis. And I did graphs too, and for every country. And again, I have the three variables of interest, the young, the working age group, and the retired people, and how this affects saving. And I did that for every country all the way to 14. So let me go back again to my empirical result right here. Okay, I'm going to explain to you the empirical result. Table 1, which shows the regression results. Table 1, which shows the regression results. It shows evidence. It shows evidence and support the life cycle hypothesis that yes, it is true. Yes, it is true. There is a positive relationship between the working population group and the national saving rate. And the result came consistent for 13 countries out of 14. So I will assume it's pretty good. Out of 14, 13 is very, very consistent that there is a positive relationship, and also significant too for this age group. And the charts attached after the empirical result also support the argument that in every country of these 14, as the working population age group rises, then also private saving is going to rise in these countries. And like I mentioned, it's 13 out of 14. So it's really consistent, and it supports the argument of the life cycle hypothesis. When I looked at the younger age group, out of 14 countries, 11 countries support the argument. The empirical result support the findings. And it shows we have 11 countries out of 14 that shows negative relationship between this age group and the saving. However, it is, like I mentioned, the result is not uniformly consistent across the group when it comes to older group, the older population, meaning the retired population. In some countries, the relationship negative, in some cases is positive. And there are many arguments why, because the older group, maybe, yes, they retired, they quit working, they do not have that income comes from, fixed income comes from working, but maybe they have some income from assets like bonds and stocks, or of course in the Middle East, they don't have the bonds on the stocks like it's in America, but it could be other assets, could be land, it could be some form of wealth they have that invested in their hometown, in their countries, in their villages, and that give them that income to use and to earn and to spend when they are old. Plus, you know, many of these countries, they have supplemented this age group with an income that they can earn and they can spend. All this could be a reason why it's inconsistent, the result with the older group. But it's consistent with the first age group, and it's consistent with the second age group, and it's not uniformity, or it's not uniform with the third group. Maybe there are missing variables. It could be there are missing variables need to be included, but which I know that could be. And but I in purpose, I said, let me just focus on just aging and the saving, knowing there are possible factors that does also impact private saving. So that table, when you can go and you can go through it, you find every country has model 1 and model 2, 14 of them. So like 2 models, 14, with 28 of them. You have the estimated coefficients for each variable, and they have the R square, and you have the expected sign for all of them. And the charts also demonstrate there's something kind of consistent relationship that confirm the result graphically. It confirmed the result with the empirical result. And this is just basically a trend analysis for the time period we took it, which is 1960 to 2000, and age group, 3 of them plotted against the saving rate, and it shows the trend. The first one, Algeria, all the way down to the last one, 14 countries, and all of them are consistent. All of them are consistent, and all of them are consistent with the result finding that argued by the life cycle hypothesis. There is something here I want to mention right here. I want to mention something right here at the end of this chart. Go back again just for a minute right here. Right here. And so I just want to make sure that I say that. I know maybe somebody will ask me this question. I do acknowledge the presence of some other factors that may affect saving. I cannot ignore them. Government subsidy could be a reason. Taxation could be another reason. Expectation about wealth and all that, it could be another reasons. And so all these are, including political instability, all these factors just does have an impact on saving, does have an impact on saving. The political instability in the area, mid-95, the Iraq War, the Gulf War, all this created uncertainty, and it does impact the level of saving in these areas. So it's very simple analysis, very simple paper. I am intended and planning to expand this analysis one more time and look at it beyond 2000 to 2021, 22. And then I'm going to compare if there's a breakdown, if there's no breakdown in the saving patterns prior to September 11 and post September 11. That would be worth thing to do and to expand this paper. This, if you want to know, this has been published in the African Review of Money and Finance and Banking. This African Review of Money and Finance and Banking is a supplement. It's a supplement of the journal called Saving and Development. And so it's right there, but you can access it if you want to get a copy of it, and I emailed it. I did email it to Ghulam Nabi in case somebody want to get a hard copy of the paper itself. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to come back right here, and say the following. I would say that the paper empirically looked at the demography and demographic structure and how it affected the saving rate in these emerging markets. And the period is limited to 1960 to 2001, and which has been selected on purpose, you know, because I want to see before. I want to see the patterns during that period, and I can conclude, or from the regression result at least, it does conform and is consistent with the life cycle hypothesis for the majority of the countries, 13 out of 14 for the young, and for the working population. However, for the other group, the ratio and the age group could sometimes positive, sometimes negative, which is basically, I would say, is inconsistent for that type of group. It could be because of omitted variables or because of something that I did not include, and it's worth looking at. But the life cycle hypothesis is life. It does impact the patterns of saving in many countries, whether it's in the MENA regions, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and or here in the Americas. I hope, you know, by reaching out to the PIDE is to know a little bit about your lecture series, to listen to the colleagues you have there, read their work, and maybe find a topic of interest that we can work on together, and benefit from it. And I hope I'll take maybe Dr. Nadim, what he said, maybe one day in the future after COVID is over. And if I have a chance to visit Pakistan, I'd love to do that. I'd love to go to visit my university, Karachi University, and maybe connect with them again. I did connect, by the way. I don't mean to switch from the paper to something about Karachi University, but I did meet one of the professors from Karachi Universities, and we did some work like proposal writings, and she was my teacher. She was my teacher at Karachi University. I met her accidentally. So I connected, I would say, with my Karachi University, and I like to connect again in the future with colleagues, whether at your institute or at other universities, to expand the work on economic development, on saving, on health expenditure. These are important areas that I looked at and I'm interested in. I did publish a paper or two about health and health expenditure, and I did another paper on saving, but for the different regions other than the MENA regions. But again, even the other paper I did about saving and the life cycle hypothesis for Southeast Asia, it does confirm the same findings. That is, there is always negative relationship with the younger age group, positive with the working group, but it's inconsistent with the retired age group for reasons, again, that countries, as they develop economically, maybe they give some subsidies, they cut taxation, or maybe this age group did some saving, did some investment, they generated some wealth that helped them to spend at that age group, at the age group. I am basically, I want to just say, conclude by saying I want to thank the Pakistan Institute Development Economics for giving me the opportunity to share with you an article that have written back, not recently, back, but that we looked at it. You asked me to talk about one of two papers, this or the fiscal policy paper. We choose this one, which is fine, and happy we did that. And hopefully there will be opportunity to conduct some research with some of your colleagues. You can come to America, you're most welcome. We welcome to have you. If you can come, please reach out for me. Consider me as a colleague, a friend. And I live in Georgia. And we have good universities here. We have good research centers around us. America have tons of data. And again, Pakistan is a very important region, strong country, strong economy. Like any other economies, we want always to do research on these countries and learn what's going on so we can benefit from them. So I'm open for that opportunity, to work with you at the center. Hopefully Zoom, hopefully COVID will be over, and maybe one day we'll meet in a conference, or even if I come to Pakistan or if you come to America, I welcome each one of you. And these are the references that I use in the paper. This is most of them. And I want to thank you, like I said, one more time for Dr. Nadeem and Ghulam Nabi and my former university, Karachi University, and all of you for being patient to listen to me. And I am just going to listen and see if you have any question for me, and I'll try to answer it if I have the answer. Thank you for giving me the chance to talk to you.
And thank you, Dr. Yasin, for giving a wonderful presentation on life cycle hypothesis and basically linking with the age structure. Before I allow the audience, there is a very simple question. When we talk about the age structure and the saving, the key thing that policymaker might be looking for is how the initial endowment and the different age structure that we allow to enter in the labor market would have a different implication for this life cycle hypothesis. So I really interested how your analysis basically will help in terms of deciding the cutoff age, where you can see that this is like the child age group, where you can see that the relationship is negative, and this is the bracket where you feel that the relationship will remain positive, and how the initial endowment across different country will influence this nexus across different age groups. So I will start with this question, then we'll take the other questions. Over to you, Dr. Yasin.
Absolutely, this is very, very good observation, Doctor. And this endowment for this age group does impact saving, and it can be, the work can be expanded. And I am sure it will, I don't know yet for 100% how it will impact the life cycle hypothesis, but the life cycle hypothesis is going to aid us, is going to help us understand and answer the question you just raised. And this could be also done at the macro level, like conduct a survey analysis and go to the towns and villages and or regions, or just we can look at the macro data and see how the initial endowment does affect saving and in these countries. And the likelihood that the hypothesis of the life cycle is going to be valid in the presence of initial endowment and so on.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Over to Dr. Sajid for your question, please. Dr. Sajid. Michael,
hello. Hello.
Go ahead.
This is Jehad.
Okay. Sorry.
Can Dr. Jehad hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. My only question is, it's very simple, that even in life cycle hypotheses, you do include the variable income, because savings are directly related to income, and I don't see a income variable in your estimation.
That's a very good questions. Yes, a very good.
For any particular reason for it?
Yes, that's very good questions. Like I just mentioned, I could do acknowledge, and I know we have a group of variables. The income level does affect saving, consumption affects saving, investment affects saving, patterns and habits affect saving, or revenue affects saving, taxation, regulation. But I did not look at them in purpose. I just want to isolate, maybe just isolate and look at the age structure and how does it affect saving. Not that we left income because we want to leave it. We know it does affect saving. We know income, that's what I think. I just learned from I can remember it from my way back from Pakistan. Your income is equal to your consumption plus saving. So higher income, higher consumption, higher saving. It doesn't mean by the same proportion, but as income rises, consumption rises, saving rises. But your question is very good and valid. It's a strong argument. Maybe there are missing variables, like I said. I did not include them, that maybe affect the reason why the result is inconsistent for the age group who is now retired or the older group. So yes, I agree with you. Income does affect, net wealth does affect saving, and other source of income affect saving. But in this paper, I tried just to limit to the age structure. That's the reason, Professor Sajid.
Okay, Dr. Naab, please go ahead.
Interesting presentation, Dr. Yasin, and I'm a demographer who works on age structure and demographic dividends. So this presentation was extra interesting for me. You're talking about emerging economies, but all the countries you have included are Middle Eastern countries and North African countries. None of the real top 10 emerging economies are in your paper. So I would suggest to include at least some of them to have an idea about how age structure and savings work at the real emerging economies. And coming to the inconclusive relation you found between savings and elderly population, we at PIDE calculated estimated generational economy for Pakistan. And we found that it was not, the deficit between income and consumption at the younger ages and the older ages, it was being fulfilled not by labor income, it was by asset income. And probably that's the reason why you don't find a definite relationship for the elderly population. I mean, if you allow me, I can even show you the graphs here. Would you like to have a look?
Yes. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Doctor.
Mansoor, can you give me the rights to share?
Yes, it is. You can.
Madam, you have rights.
Okay. So this is the summary of our generational account. And if you look, it was consumption minus labor income, and the deficit was largely being fulfilled by total asset income. It was not labor income.
Absolutely true.
This is the estimations for Pakistan. I mean, the blue line is the consumption, and as one would expect,
saving,
income is more than consumption in the main ages. But coming to the point I'm trying to make, I'll just go to the last graph here. Asset-based reallocations. If you look at the older ages, even at those ages, asset-based income is you can see it in both inflows and outflows. And probably that's the reason why you don't see a conclusive relationship between savings and elderly, because it is through asset income that they probably are still saving, but not exactly as much as in the working ages, but the savings are still there. Which of course in the younger ages, it's zero. I mean, if you look at the younger ages, 0 to 14, it's nothing, but they do decline, but they are still there. And a very, very minor point, you need a bit of correction in your age groups. I mean, it should be 0 to 14, not 0 to 15, because you can't have 15 and 15 to 64 and 0 to 15. So it should be 0 to 14, 15 to 64, and 65 plus, 65 and above. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Just to respond to your questions and observation, yes, you're right. There are many countries that can be included. African countries can be included. Mediterranean countries can be included, other than being in the MENA regions, Southeast Asia. At that time, when I just looked at I just took the MENA regions. The MENA regions does not include all African countries. It just includes the North Africa. And that's why it's called MENA, Middle East and North Africa. That's maybe the reason why I did not include other countries. It doesn't mean there is no relationship and we should not look at them. Absolutely, you are right. That's an expansion to the argument that how the patterns change beyond the MENA regions. The Sahara, for example, or West Africa, or Eastern Africa. Same thing, how it is in the subcontinent, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and India, or Southeast Asia, how this change. That's very valid argument, Professor. Countries can be added. However, like I just mentioned, my intention was strictly to focus on the MENA at that time. And I am open for opportunities to expand the argument, the discussion, and the work on beyond the MENA region. African, West Africa, East Africa, the Sahara, and all that. Of course, the regions of Pakistan and Bangladesh and India also.
I think it was just the title of your presentation that confused me a little, because if you just mentioned MENA there, I think the problem is sorted.
Yes, I did that. I mentioned the MENA region.
No, in the title of the presentation.
Okay, yes. Okay.
I mean, if you just have MENA there, I think
yeah,
totally
I see
fine.
your point. You were right. I could have done that. We can save you the question, but I'm glad to hear your voice and to raise these questions, to open my eyes on doing the expansion. Also regarding the assets, I said you are right. There could be the assets accumulation for this age group. The older one is a reason why the relationship is not negative. I agree with you. Because this age group, say when they were young, maybe the way where they invested, it could be they invested in a small business, they invested in their land, or they invested in some real estate in these countries that give them some form of assets. Maybe not bonds and stocks as it is developed in the Western countries, but in real assets. They invested that generate for them an income at older age. I agree with you.
Thank you, Dr. Yasin. Any other question? Otherwise, I have a very small question. Please raise your hand if you have any question. Okay, thank you. The very small question like that. When we talk about this life cycle, and we know that over the last 100 years, the saving pattern as well as the initial endowment and income levels changes drastically across the country. Now, the question that comes to our mind that whether if we talk about the saving that people mainly use after retirement, would the absolute amount remain same, or whether it is have increasing or decreasing trend in terms of the minimum requirement that he or she has to meet after the retirement life? Is there any calculation regarding this, whether they have enough amount, though it's it's well-established phenomenon because they use saving after retirement, but what about the level or the amount that they have in terms of meeting the requirement? Because over the last few decades, the minimum age would go on the higher side. So how you tackle all these issues while
True, true. Here in America, I recall the age group at one time, it was 60 years old. And then they moved it to 62, they moved it to 65, and now they open it. It's open. You want to retire, retire. If you don't want to retire, you can still work. So that creates an opportunity for the older group to earn an income, and to save and increase their net wealth. And maybe that's a reason that the result there will be inconclusive. But countries are changing, population structure are changing in these countries, the economies are changing in these countries, opportunities to invest, to save changes also. So I would expect that the saving patterns is gonna vary. And those older group, they will make sure, you know, they have enough money for their to take care of their health at older age, and at the same time maintain some form of steady income. It may not be huge or big, but my expectation, they are smart enough, they are very rational. Whatever they save, it's enough to cover some of their, most of their expenditure on health and other things. At the same time, provide some income for them. But these are very good points that I myself will look at that. I'm interested to follow up on your question, Dr. Nadeem.
Thank you. Any other question? Dr. Would you like to say something about the way you explain this unemployment, and especially the educated, and in terms of this saving pattern, how it influenced the overall structure of the saving behavior?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
So just Dr. Naab did a research that it shows that there is a massive unemployment among the educated youth. And if this is like a common phenomenon that we observe in coming years and so on, how it will affect the overall life cycle of the saving pattern?
Yeah. Is the question for me or for Dr. Nabi?
Yeah, if Dr. Naab can add something, then over to you, how you explain this unemployment and the life saving pattern.
I will wait to hear from her.
Now, sir, obviously the savings would be low. I mean, if they don't have any income, from where would they save? But I haven't exactly done any work on that, so I can't give any definitive answer. But
the problem again linked with the magnitude or the absolute income that they have after the retirement. If like 5 to 10 years they wasted in terms of unemployment, then probably the remaining years that they use for the saving, it would be very difficult for them to have enough saving.
It would be very difficult. It would be very difficult. I mean, like the graphs I just showed you, that most of the deficit is being fulfilled by asset income. So if they are not earning, there are no savings, there would be no asset accumulation.
Yes, over to you, Dr. Yasin.
That's good observation from your side, and good comments from my colleague, Dr. Nabi. Job opportunities is important. If countries like the Middle Eastern or African or Pakistan, if these countries don't create job opportunities for the young, for the youth people, they may have degree, they may have graduation, they may have skills, but they say, well, I'm not finding the right job. And we observe that. I went to Palestine and have seen this. We have a large group of people, they graduate with a bachelor degree, and they're sitting, they're looking for a job. And so countries need to find a way to increase the number of vacancies. But here in America, we don't have this problem here. Opportunities are, I'm sure maybe you are familiar with the American economy. Job opportunities is even larger here, even after COVID, than it used to be before. We have shortages of labor, in fact, here. But it is not the case in other countries. In other countries, you may have the youth are facing difficulty finding jobs, and they are within the age group who can work, but they cannot work. And if they cannot work, there is not enough consumption, not enough saving for them. And so it's the responsibilities of policymakers and in these countries, and say, sit together, figure out how we can create job opportunities for this young rising population, 20 and above. As they graduate, maybe you should have a linkages pipeline between the universities and the industry, give them internship, give them opportunities to gain experience before they go really to the workplace. And if we do that, then they'll have like not only a degree, but they'll have some meaningful experience. They can be hired, they can add value, they can get a job, they can create value for the business owners, they can generate income, they can generate saving, and so on.
The last question from my side, then if there is no other question, we'll conclude this session. Over the last couple of decades, we observed there is an exponential increase in terms of social protections across the world, especially in developing countries. Social protection in terms of either direct food subsidies, either in terms of health provisions, and so many other forms. You know, if there is some sort of like a support from the government in terms of meeting the health expenditure as well as the minimum food expenditure, then how it will change the preference of the individual to save for the remaining life. Because if he or she knows that it would be the responsibility of the state to subsidize him or her through different social protection, then why he save for the remaining life? So over to you.
Yeah, you're right. We see that in America right here, that these social protections programs does impacted the propensity and the tendency to work. For example, during the pandemic, government started issuing checks basically and supplementary income close to $500, $600, and some even per week. And many, they say, well, why should I work? You know, this social protection is covering my expenses. So as they increase, you're right, as these social protection programs increases, it may lead to incentives not to work. I don't want to work. And of course, but this is going to raise an issue with the taxpayer, whoever paying the taxes. They're going to oppose that. If you are paying taxes, or if you care about the revenue of the government and you want to make sure that we use the government revenue in creating jobs opportunities, they may oppose that. They may claim, or they may argue that let's cut this social protection, or even fight it, or ask people to go to work. Here's the job opportunity. But again, it's the responsibility of the state. If the state does not create a job, like we just mentioned about the youth as they enter the labor force, then what to do? Should they be dependent on their parents? Is there a program government can give them to support them? These are very valid questions, but if you just give money in the form of subsidies and grants and health expenditure and food stamps and coupons and all that, it may lead an incentives for them not to work, because they say, well, I'm better off getting free money. And that's damaging to the economy overall. It should be the other way around. This program has a limited scope, limited period, designed to induce incentives for the individuals to work rather than to be dependent on government social programs and protections.
Thank you, Dr. Yasin. If there is no other question, we'll, on the behalf of PIDE and Dr. Nimal, thank you for your time and giving us a very comprehensive overview of how the demographic structure would reshape the nexus between the age group and the saving across the different groups of countries. With this, once again, I thanks, and definitely we are looking forward to have you at PIDE and in Pakistan. So again, thank you so much. And also I'm thankful for the participant sparing time to learn from Dr. Yasin. Thank you, Dr. Yasin.
Thank you very much. I am very happy to meet you and to meet your colleagues, and I look forward maybe in the future to work with your associate researcher on all projects and papers if they are trying to reach out for me, and I can reach out for them, and will be willing to do what we need to do to expand knowledge around this area. Thank you. Thank you, the Institute.
Thank you so much. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.